Okay, so some trigger warnings I want to put in place for, I assume people are going to imagine what I'm going to discuss, but there are some, how would I put it, secret kind of allegations that are coming forth, and I think these are very interesting and need to be discussed in light of what was released today. Hey guys, it's Murad Murali. Hopefully you guys are all doing well today. Back at again with another video. If you have not subscribed, please click that button. It is daily and consistent content on this channel. Inject it. Click that button and subscribe. Comment down below. Please give this video a thumbs up, and there's a super thanks button there. Send anything if you wish to. There's a dollar sign there. I would appreciate it. Now, within light of a lot that has happened, a lot from that, new dark lawsuit, and then the pictures that also surfaced as well, and then his very odd statement that was given very much R. Kelly, a lot took place with fresh new information when it came to P. Diddy. Just when I thought this was beginning to die down, it just went right back up again. That particular case, I was reading the court documents, and it's like 12 to 14 pages. That was filed on the day that the New York Survivors Act was expired, on Thanksgiving. That's when this lawsuit was filed. And it was filed by the same lawyer that filed Cassie's lawsuit. So I'm thinking that, once this came into fruition and was filed, because I believe it was read somewhere that like over 500 were filed, and when I was having a discussion with the criminal civil lawyer in New York, he said that there were far more than 400 or 500 that were filed. So I think we are probably going to expect more lawsuits coming out, but I think the way Cassie's lawyer is doing it is in a very different strategy, where Cassie's lawyer is choosing to, I think, release it a week after, so it continues to build momentum, rather than having them all released at the same day or two, so that all of their stories don't get convoluted together, which I think is actually a very clever idea. But there are some secret allegations, and the reason why I say secret is because nobody's discussing them. They are allegations, and there's no proof or evidence. They are only but allegations as of right now, but people aren't discussing it as much, maybe because people just don't know. But there have been allegations that have hit the forums like Reddit in regards to people's own personal stories of what has happened with Diddy, and they are unfortunately both sad, and they both involve male victims, not female victims in this instance. And I feel like we've only heard from women come forth. Men, on the other hand, either don't come forward, or we're hearing stories on forums, which I find to be very, very interesting, guys. Okay. So this is the first one on Reddit, where, trigger warning. A very, very close friend of mine growing up came forward about being molested by P. Diddy in the late 90s as a child. No one else believed him. He committed suicide 7 years ago. I'm going to read that again for you guys. A very close friend of mine growing up came forward about being molested by P. Diddy in the late 90s as a child. No one else believed him. He committed suicide 7 years ago. So the fact that, this person is saying a very close friend of mine, his friend was a child, a young boy, what P. Diddy had done to him, and then he offed himself because he just could not live with the significant amount of trauma and PTSD. I'm going to read out the second one before I break this down. Somebody on Twitter came forth, actually when the first lawsuit hit, and said, I think I came across a male victim years ago. I used to have a PR company in Atlanta. My office was in a building that was a rehearsal studio, but included a recording studio. This was between 2006 and 2008-ish. We were walking out the studio laughing about a new Diddy rumor. We heard. There was a guy that had a mid-level hit song who heard us as he passed by. We weren't friends or connected, but we saw each other around the building often. As we all pass each other, he yells, "You don't know." We stopped to face him, and he was on the brink of tears. I think he said, "You don't know what he does to people. You don't know." I never laughed at another Diddy rumor again. I don't know what happened to but his music never took off. Due to recent events, I had to dig in the crevices of my mind to remember the name of the song. So yet again, we are having these stories coming out, and I don't think she found out who this person was in terms of the song and etc. But for the fact that a man is screaming at you, crying in tears, saying you don't know what he does to people, you just don't know, and this was way back in 2008, is insane. I also want to remind people that in this lawsuit, when that woman who was a girl at the time came forth, she was in 11th grade and she was 17. P. Diddy was 34. A 35-year-old man with somebody who's 17, 18, 19, 20 is very questionable to me, regardless of what they asked, the young boy or girl to do. Now, these two stories are on forums. I'm not saying I have proof, but I think that these allegations should just be taken as seriously as what we've, seen online, just because, men it's very difficult for men to come forward when it comes to anything in regards to sexual abuse, because it's humiliating, it's, you know, degrading to come with that public knowledge. People really want to keep that to themselves. Believe me, I know. And unfortunately, my story was taken from me, but it is very degrading to come forth to the public as a man and tell the world. But unfortunately, I feel like there's power in men coming forth, especially in this instance, because it does carry more weight in the world that we live in. Now, this, you know, close friend, person on Reddit stating that, you know, his friend had committed suicide. Suicide is a very common option, especially for young boys who go through significant amount of, you know, SA, where they don't have anywhere to go to, they don't know how to speak up, they can't afford therapy, they don't know where to go, and the trauma and PTSD is constantly circling in their mind, well, I should just say my mind at this point, because I've already touched on my story here and there in my own words about, you know, SA and etc. You don't have anywhere to go, and especially when you are a young boy of color, which is what I feel like P. Diddy was targeting. When you're young, black, brown, it's so difficult. The cultural nuances are not there. The cultural flexibility is not there. You don't know where to go. And the only way you want this to stop is because you want to off yourself. You don't want to off yourself. You want the memories to stop. And that is the only way. I myself have been extremely suicidal growing up. In my young teens, elder teens, especially my early 20s, in regards to the trauma, the PTSD, it doesn't stop. It goes round and round and round in circles. Of course, I meditate. I was able to finally afford therapy recently and etc. But then these aren't solutions, because you don't know what is a solution. So you want to just off your life because you don't want to keep having these memories that are ingrained in your brain from the significant amount of trauma that you've gone through. And especially when you are a young boy, and especially when you are a young man and you go through these instances where these men absolutely violate you, you don't know where to go, because the men around you enable it. The men around you don't care. The men around will laugh at you and dismiss you. In the patriarchal, you know, world that we live in of hyper masculinity, it is embarrassing for you to come forth because you're lesser of a man than if you do. And, you know, tell your stories. It's all very complex. And I'm not going to be able to explain it in an 8 to 10 minute video, but I myself can absolutely relate to these young boys in terms of being suicidal, crying and, you know, on the brink of tears and being extremely emotional, not knowing where to go, zero supportive systems, and you don't know how to tackle this issue. And I feel like it's a secret pandemic. It's something that has never really been tackled publicly and has never really been addressed. Yet we keep seeing every 5 to 10 years a huge person who has a significant amount of power that abuses people left, right, center, whether it's R. Kelly, Epstein, Diddy, etc., etc., etc. And it's always the young boys who are silenced completely. And I think that I just want to focus on boys and men in this video. I'm not disregarding women and girls in any capacity at all. I want to make that very clear. But there is just no voice, there's no platform, there's no support, there's rarely any organizations, and even then there's a huge culture block for young boys who are, you know, black and brown, growing in African Caribbean communities, growing in Arab South Asian communities. It's just absolutely insane. There's nowhere for you to go, so you end up offing yourself. And I think that, you know, these stories are very dark, guys. They're extremely dark that we're hearing. They're very traumatic to all of us who've been through stuff, very triggering for all of us who've been through stuff. And, you know, someone said to me, oh, Murar, why don't you take a break from XYZ? Because it can be traumatic. And whilst, you know, I can do that, I want to power on. I want to send a message to people that, you know, I don't want to sit in silence. I want to voice everything and use my power to do so, and use my platform to do so, because I have been in those experiences. I understand what Cassie went through. I understand what these boys have gone through, if these stories are true, which I believe them to be true. I understand what these other girls have gone through. Power imbalance here. It's so hard for you as a young boy or girl to get out of these situations. You're basically, it's like there's no water around you, but you're drowning. That's exactly the feeling that I want to explain, and you can't move. That is the pinpoint feeling for me, I know personally. So these are some dark stories, and I really feel for young boys in our generation today, as well as the men who've grown up with XYZ. You'd be surprised. There's been so many grown men who've come to me and friends who've said that they've been through XYZ through stuff, and you wouldn't even imagine, because it's so normalized. It's actually insane. It's so normalized. And so I have discussed that I'm in the early steps of creating my own charity to help the young black and brown boys. The charity is called Forgotten. I don't want to get emotional. Let me not cry. It's called why am I getting emotional? It's called Forgotten Boys, and I just feel like we are the ones that get this is not what I need to be doing right now. I do not want to be crying again. We are the ones who are forgotten in this instance, and there's just no stem or root of a supportive system for us, and then you internalize everything and you correlate it with your value as a person. You decrease your value of who you are as a person. And that is where it gets so dangerous, because when you don't have self-value because of the abuse that you've gone through, you end up reducing this value and you condition it to who you are. You feel so low, you end up being in a position where you are so lost. And then once you navigate through that, you sit with that low value of yourself, rooted in a significant amount of abuse that you've gone through. And the only option that you feel like you have is to off yourself and to be extremely suicidal. It is just sad. It's so sad. Lord. You just feel extremely lost growing up. And I really want to talk about my own story, and I keep saying that I am, but I'm doing it my own time. I don't want anyone to push me or rush me to do stuff, as nobody would, but it's really complex and nuanced, especially for the young boys, and especially the young boys in our generation below. And I'm always like on ready to find out what the hell's going on with XYZ to make sure people are okay. Maybe that's my own trauma, but you really want to be for the young boys and girls, because once you go through something like that, you end up being lost for a very long time, and not a lot of people get out of it. Luckily, I don't know how mentally I was able to get out of it, but some people you don't. And hearing that person's story where he ended up killing himself because what P. Diddy did to him allegedly is extremely sad. It's just the self-value point, the low value point that you have, like, growing up at the ages of 17, 18, 19, 20, and etc. 21, that particular bracket of 16 to 21, whilst I was going through XYZ, unfortunately, I would always I would always look at other boys who I assumed didn't go through anything XYZ, and I was just jealous of them, because I was just like, they have these normal lives, they can go socially function properly, they don't have social anxiety with XYZ, they can play sports, they can do everything fine, and it's just like, what's wrong with me? Do you know what I mean? Like, what did I do? Like, why am I like this? Why have I gone so quiet and isolated and to myself and cornering myself in my room? Why am I not talking to people? Like, why am I the seen as, then people see you as the weird one, but they don't realize what's happened. And I always used to just look at boys who haven't been through XYZ, and I used to just be so jealous of them, and I used to just envy them, and I used to just be like, I wish it didn't happen like that for me. So I'm rambling again and I'm ranting again, and I really don't mean to do that, because I really like to keep my videos short. Maybe because it's 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, child, and I'm just here, and I'm just, I don't know, but it's just, these two stories hit me really badly, especially the one with that man. The way that she described it in those tweets, she was so descriptive. To me, it doesn't look like any of these two are lies. Some of you guys may believe it's lies, fine. I don't believe it's lies, but we just feel like we don't have anywhere to go and nowhere to support, no one to speak to, no one to raise our voices to, and you just get quiet, and some people do kill themselves through being significantly R-worded or trafficked or forced to do things. They can't live with these memories and these traumas, and they will kill themselves left, right, center. I wouldn't have been surprised if Cassie had reached that moment before. And just because she's settled in a lawsuit doesn't mean that her trauma and PTSD or any of these other people is over. It doesn't work like that. It stays with you for a long time. It's not about the memories, it's about how you respond to it, and that's how you get better as you get older. The significant amount of PTSD and trauma. But yeah, that really just it's that whole moment of the low value and just comparing myself to other people who I assume didn't go through anything, and just wish I had their childhood and wish I had their adulthood, because you just feel like everything's just been robbed from me for no reason. And in time I ended up, even now I love watching shows that I used to watch in my childhood, because it brings me back to that safe place before everything took place. It's very interesting how the mind works. It's so interesting. Whew. Okay, I know I'm up till 5, 6 in the morning every day for the last 3 weeks since this P. Diddy stuff has happened, guys. And honestly, it's not even the P. Diddy stuff that has got me up till 6, 7 a.m. in the morning. It's what's going on in Palestine, and the fact that so many young children are being slaughtered left, right, and center. Over 10,000 children, 20,000 people overall in general, men and women. The genocide is going on, and I just can't every day I can't live, like yesterday I was crying a lot over what's going on. I can't get over it. It's insane. It's like we're living in this dystopian world where this whole genocide is going on, but Taylor Swift is the Time Person of the Year. It just don't make no sense. It's like we're living in two different worlds. It's like we're on a different planet to what we're seeing. It's just insane, and I can't sleep over it. So that is probably why my bags have gotten heavier, etc. His skin is still on fleek. Let's not get it twisted. The skin still looks good. Skin still look good. Anyways, let me not start crying, please, because the last time I started crying, it did not go well. So I really don't want to be doing that now. Subscribe to the channel, guys. Click that button. It is daily and consistent content. I would appreciate it if you guys do subscribe. Click that button, because I'm coming to you with this 24/7 content no matter what the time of the day is. So I would really appreciate it if you guys do. Apologies for the long video. Comment down below, send a super thanks if you guys wish to. There's a $ there. Give this video a thumbs up. Make of this information what you will. I would, comment down below. Be interested to read your comments. And yeah. Child, it's a sad world. It's just a sad world.